Well, happy Thursday, everybody. Thank you for being with me for these devotions. I really appreciate it and pray they are a blessing in your life. And as you're opening your Bible to Genesis 32, I just want to remind everybody that this Sunday evening, we're hosting some training for our D groups. That's this Sunday evening in the worship center, training for our D groups. And this is for every D group facilitator, co-facilitator, every person who is in a D group. We're asking, 400, there are over 400 adults in our D groups. We're asking all of you to show up at 5 o'clock this Sunday evening. We have some training, some encouragement, some inspiration, just some stuff we want to share with you. Look forward to seeing you Sunday night, 5 o'clock, everyone who's part of a D group. All right, our devotion today, we are in our Bible reading plan. We're in Genesis chapter 32, and I have to be honest with you, I really like Genesis 32 as well as Genesis 33. And I think they show the growth that took place in Jacob as a man and even as a man of God. And you see it in this chapter. As a man, he grew in wisdom and he demonstrated that wisdom. Look with me for a moment at verses 3 through 5. Then Jacob sent messengers before him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the country of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, Thus you shall say to my lord Esau, Thus says your servant Jacob, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, male and female servants, and I have sent to tell my lord that I may find favor in your sight. Now, the maturity of Jacob is seen in the wisdom of what he does here, because remember, 20 years earlier, he had to flee because he had stolen his brother's birthright, or blessing rather, and earlier his birthright. And Esau was angry and wanting to kill him, and it was a bad situation. Now he's coming home. He's returning to the promised land. And notice he takes the initiative to reach out to Esau, his brother, before he ever got there. There's wisdom in that. He also knew where Esau lived, over in the Mount Seir in Edom. So there had been some level of communication, whether directly between Jacob and Esau, we don't know, but some communication with the family back in the promised land. The whole time that Jacob had been gone, he knew where Esau lived. And Esau was not living with his father and mother, Isaac and Rebekah. He was in Seir, in Edom, which is to the south and to the east, if you will, of where Isaac was living. He actually had gone and taken up in the area where Ishmael, Isaac, his dad's half brother. So Ishmael, his uncle, lived. You could say half uncle, whatever you want to call it. And in Genesis 28, Esau had actually married one of Ishmael's daughters. Now, so he's taking the initiative to reach out. Okay, he's not waiting for Esau to respond. He takes the first step, so to speak. But he was afraid. He was not sure how Esau was going to react, which is wise for him to be cautious. Didn't know how Esau would treat him. And so he's very wise in how he presents himself. There's a humility here. When he sends the servants to tell, my Lord, and his servant, referring to himself as Esau's servant. He did that again in verse 18 when he actually met Esau, bowing down and sending them out in this chapter with gifts of livestock and so on. And you might say he was sort of making restitution for what he had stolen from Esau years before. So there's wisdom there. There's also wisdom seen in that he wasn't taking chances. In case Esau was still angry and wanted to attack, wanted to murder, execute vengeance, he divided his family into groups so that he couldn't attack them all at one time. So there's just different evidences of wisdom, cautious optimism, but wisdom on the part of Esau. But you also see in this chapter, not just his growth as a man, but his growth, and it's going to continue, but his growth as a man of God. He knew that he was not worthy of all the ways God had blessed him. In verses 9 and 10, Jacob said this. So he's talking to God. He says, O God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, O Lord, who said to me, return to your country and to your relatives, I will prosper you. I am unworthy. God, I am not worthy of all the loving kindness, of all the faithfulness which you have shown to your servant. For with my staff only I crossed this Jordan, and now I have become these companies, these two companies. Lord, when I left here, it was just with my walking cane, walking stick, this shepherd's staff. Now I'm coming back with this family, with servants, with livestock, with wealth. God, I am not worthy of all the ways you have blessed me. An indication of some spiritual growth, some growing as a man of God. And he prayed for God's protection. Look at verse 11. He said, deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him. He's honest with God. He doesn't depend he does not depend alone on his plans to protect his family. He's wise in dividing his family up, but he's also praying for God's help, God's protection, another sign of growth. He's not trying to do it all by himself. And then in this chapter, he wrestles with God, and at the end receives a blessing. His name is changed from Jacob to Israel. This is where Israel gets its name from, it as a nation. And this wrestling experience that night, really, you could say, epitomizes Jacob's life, because he spent so much of his life wrestling with God. Until he was finally broken, and then received the blessings of God. That he finally wanted God more than his own selfish desires. And so I love this chapter because it speaks to the growth of this man. Because let's be honest, when you go back to the earlier chapters in Genesis, there's not a lot of good you can say about Jacob. But we see him growing as a human being, as a man, and we see him growing as a man of God, and that's commendable, and that's what we all want. I pray I'm not the man I was 20 years ago. I'm not the man of God I was 20 years ago. I pray you're not the man you were 20 years ago, or the man of God you were 20 years ago, and I pray that both of us, 5 years from now, are better men or better women, better men or women of God 5 years from now than we are right now. And if God lets us live, that 10 years down the road we'll be better than we are 5 years. I pray that's the trajectory of our lives as men and women, but also as men and women of God. Don't ever get stuck. Don't ever stay where you are. Keep moving forward in your growth. Be a lifelong learner. Keep maturing and growing as a man, as a woman, and as a follower of Jesus. That's my takeaway from this chapter. Look forward to sharing with you Monday, chapter 33, because tomorrow we look at Proverbs chapter 7. Remember, we're reading one proverb a week. Every Friday, we're looking at one of the Proverbs until we've read all 31 of them sometime late summer. Hey, God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow, everybody.